guys, welcome to Connection Chats. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have an idol of mine on the show with us today. It's not about, you know, the actual author, but the people that get them where they are. And I have one of the greatest in the industry here with us today, ready to bring some amazing value to you guys. So please help me welcome Mr. Gary M. Krebs.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thanks for having me on. Really
appreciate
seeing you.
Thanks for being here. I'm really excited and happy to get going into these questions, but let's take a couple minutes and really kind of dig in and explain to people who aren't familiar with you. You're kind of like me, the behind the scenes. But then you are out there in other things. So let's talk about those. Tell us about you, Gary.
I'll try to be brief. So I was on the publishing side of the business for many years, working my way up as an editor, working for trade book houses until I eventually became publisher. So some of the houses that I worked for, Macmillan, McGraw-Hill, a division of Amazon. I was publisher at Adams Media. So as publisher, I was the one who sat at the publishing board, we call it an acquisitions meeting, making the decisions on what my respective company would actually bring in, what we would acquire from agents and authors. And I wasn't the sole arbiter. We had a team of people, salespeople, marketing people, but it was weighing all of that information, all that feedback to make that final decision and make sure that the book was right for our company. Along the way, I was editor of the Guinness Book of Records. I did that for 1 year. About 5 years ago, I went to the other side of the publishing business, became a ghostwriter and collaborator. So since then, I've written and collaborated on about 25 books already, many of them award-winning, including one I was telling you about before, Playing Dead with Monique Faison-Ross, which is a true story, true crime book about how she survived being attacked by her ex-husband and beaten on the head with a shovel. And it's just haunting, incredible story. I've also been agenting books, serving as literary agent on select projects, been doing that. I've also been packaging books for authors and kind of meeting them where they are. So some people need writing help, some need editing help, some have the manuscript all done, some of them have a cover, but it's just helping them pull it all together and get the book through the feeds and live into all the accounts, primarily Amazon. That's obviously the biggie. So I've been doing that. Along the way, I've also written a novel, Little Miss of Dark County, which came out this past spring, amidst COVID, unfortunately, but it's gotten really good reviews, notices. I'm very proud of it myself. Little Miss of Dark County, The Origins of Annie Oakley. So it's really, I look at it as a superhero origin story that Annie Oakley was an American icon, and people don't know that before she became the world's most famous sharpshooter, winning every contest in the world and meeting with kings and queens and traveling with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, that she was actually held prisoner for 2 years in the woods by a couple and tormented, beaten physically, emotionally, even hints of sexually. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was a pretty traumatic thing that actually happened to Annie Oakley. And so it just touched me, that story, and especially because so few people know that story. And Little Miss of Dark County has actually been optioned to Hollywood as a movie. So I'm very proud of that. So hopefully within a couple of years, it'll all come together. I can't reveal any more details, but it is being discussed among a lot of top Hollywood people, who's going to executive produce, star, direct, all that. So
I'd love to have a deeper conversation with you about that whole process, being with some of the people that I'm connected with now, namely Tony Doty and a couple of others. That's an avenue that I want to be able to go down with my publishing company, Twisted Souls Press. And I think it would be a lot of fun to have a sit down with you talking about that whole process.
Well, and funnily enough, the Journey to Success Summit on March 20th and 21st, I will be hosting a panel with producers talking about from book to film, how you go about making that transformation from the printed book to film, and not just the art of it and what goes into adapting a book into a screenplay. I studied screenwriting as an undergraduate at Tisch School of the Arts, NYU, in the dramatic writing program. But I mean, obviously, it's an art form and very different from novel writing. And it happens I did both. I wrote the novel, wrote the screenplay, and so that's part of it. But the other part is just cracking Hollywood, which is much harder than cracking the publishing business. There's a lot of luck you need to have, and you have to do everything right. You have to have the right project at the right time. So there's a lot involved in that. So we're having that panel at that event. So people really shouldn't miss it. You'll gain access to real Hollywood producers.
Agreed. It's definitely an event that I think that's not what I wanted to show. I'm sorry. It's definitely an event that I don't think people who are wanting to take that next step need to miss. And that was the whole purpose of creating these videos. I know when I got started with True Living, I went there because I knew I needed to make some connections in different industries to be able to grow the businesses that I'm involved in and the projects that I'm working on. But I really had no idea how to approach opportunities that were open.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until getting in and spending about 5 months with True Living on a fairly regular basis that I kind of figured it out. And now I want to be able to take what I know and give it to people. So when they show up to the Journey to Success Summit, which we're going to talk about more of here in just a moment, when they show up for that, I want them to be able to see and seize the opportunities that are going to be available at that event. And it's
going to be very hands-on and practical. You know, we looked at it as a mastermind, that you are going to have access not just to the elite people in publishing or in business or as thought leaders, but really hands-on stuff, almost like course curriculum material that's practical and applied that you could use in your life, like starting today, tomorrow. You would never have such access to such people ordinarily. So for me, I was able to bring in a lot of my publishing community, other agents, best-selling authors, editors from publishing houses, a couple of publishers, and they're going to give it, they will share what they know, and they want to help. They don't want to exclude, they want to include. They want people to really improve what they do and be successful.
Indeed, and I'm excited. That was one of the things when they first started talking about the event at True Living that motivated me to get on board and get behind it. Being where I'm at in the indie publishing industry, and running an indie hybrid kind of publishing company, this is powerful stuff. People that are in that market need to show up because this is what's going to make the difference for so many people that are struggling. And it motivated me to want to be a part of that and make sure that it stays going in that direction.
For me, it's all about doing it professionally, whether you're going to self-publish or go with a hybrid publisher, or even have the opportunity to get your book published by a traditional publisher. You want the end result to be spectacular. To me, now in this day and age, it's really easy to get published, almost too easy. There's no stigma attached to it. The issue is that people feel like they can just go on KDP and produce a book, or go on Ingram Spark and produce a book, which you can, but it's kind of like being given a manual to fly a plane and then just going in the cockpit and flying and thinking that you're a pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
You need publishing expertise in terms of the title, the subtitle, the cover, the interior design, the layout, indexing the book, getting your book developmental edited properly, getting a copy edited, all of these things. And that doesn't even get into the world of like what goes into the feeds that are live on accounts like Amazon. What people put into those feeds is so important in terms of getting the category right, getting the keywords right, all of that stuff. If people can't find your book, you won't sell any copies. There's one story I know. I have a good friend I met at an event who's self-publishing her book, and I said, "Hey, I'll be happy to take a look at the cover, or, help you out if you need it." And she said she would, but then she changed her mind and just went off and did it on her own. She sent me a finished copy of the book, and she spelled the word forward incorrectly on the front cover. And it's like
you do that. Don't you look at it and you're like,
cover with me before it had gotten posted. It just would have made a difference, and people pick up on those things, they really do.
I have a release coming out. I'm pushing for mid-March, called Reputation is Everything for Writers.
That's a good topic. Really good.
It really is. I put it out once before and I pulled it down fairly quickly. It got some kind of negative feedback. And it was a couple of years ago, and I'm not where I was then. I've come a long way. And now I'm like, okay, I'm putting it out there because it's needed. It's necessary. People don't realize the impact that their reputation has. And they also don't realize how easily affected it is by other things. And so I'm excited about that release coming up. But it's not about me today. It's about you. And I want to jump into our questions if you're ready for that.
Sure. Fire away.
All right. Question number 1. What was the best for you connection you ever made, and how did it make a difference for you?
Well, it's kind of a cross between two. So one was that I was really lucky right after college, after I graduated, that I got a job as an editorial assistant working for a guy named Jerry Helfrich, who is vice president, editorial director at Facts on File, publishing house. And from day one, he taught me everything he knew and shared his wisdom with me and gave me responsibility. And he said, if there's something you want to do, just ask and I'll help you do it. And it's all yours. Like he didn't need any credit for it. He didn't need to micromanage it. He just sort of said, here, go. And without that kind of support and confidence, who knows where I would have been in my book publishing career. The second one is somebody you already mentioned, Anthony DeGraff. And that was really fortuitous because actually it's two people, Rick Frischman is the other one. I was keynote speaker at one of Rick Frischman's Author 101 events. And I happened to mention my book and screenplay. I was in the process of publishing my novel and completing the screenplay. And unbeknownst to me, Anthony was there and had seen me on stage and heard me talk about it. And he kept showing up next to me at lunches and dinners. I'm like, who is this guy? And he was so polite. And he kept saying, tell me more about your novel. Tell me more about your screenplay. So I did. And they said, I do know a lot of producers. Would you be okay if I shared your work with them? And I said, sure, why not? I mean, I've had leads before that didn't pan out into anything, so I didn't think much of it. But before I left the event in Florida, we exchanged emails and texts and, all this stuff. And he said, really, send me your novel, send me your screenplay, and I will help you. Well, sure enough, I arrived back home in Connecticut. Within 2 days, he had shared my novel with a producer who read it over that weekend. who then wanted to read my screenplay. And within another week, I had an agreement. And so you never know who you will meet at these events. And so really those two people were just so important. By the way, you're going to meet my cat, who is Misty. She loves Zoom meetings.
Beautiful cat. Yeah, and those two, Rick is another one that I want to that I definitely want to get on the show and do an interview with, maybe next Friday. Tony's working on getting it all worked out. I really would love the opportunity to be able to interview everybody that's speaking at the event and do this.
Love Rick. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, so well, here's to making those connections and making that happen. I'm really excited. I got to kick it off with you this Friday. I had a couple other people on, and they're great. And so many connections have been made from that already. Wonderful. So it's exciting. It really is exciting to have a hand in that. But now we're going to get into question number 2, the hard one.
So, I don't know if it was a question. I don't know if it was a connection that got away, but it's one that I think about a lot. So flashback to when I think I was a junior in college. Again, I was at Tisch School of the Arts in the dramatic writing program. And a friend of a friend read a play of mine and really liked it. And it turned out that her roommate knew someone who was at one time Woody Allen's assistant and then became assistant to Robert Greenhut, who's Woody Allen's producer, as well as produced huge movies like Big and all this stuff. And so I sent my play over and she loved it. She thought my play was great. So she couldn't do anything with it because it was a play, not a screenplay. But she introduced me to a top agent at the William Morris Agency. And he wanted to read my play. He wanted to meet with me. And it was all within a day. And I was still an undergraduate in college. My wardrobe was terrible. I probably needed some grooming at the time. And I went in there and went into this huge, intimidating office at the William Morris Agency. I was 20 years old. And I felt like I was in a kindergartner's chair. It was so tiny. And this agent was very tall. And he felt like he was 10 feet above me. And he spoke to me way across the room, and I felt so intimidated. So I really do regret that. And I was dressed horribly. I mean, just hard. I really tried to dress well, but I looked like such a dork. And so I don't think that I presented myself as a polished, person on the rise. I look like a wet behind the ears college kid at best, right? And within a week, I got a very polite response back from him saying he really enjoyed my play, but he thought that it was limited to the Jewish theater or something like that. But ultimately, I knew that I didn't have it at that meeting. I didn't rise to that challenge, but I learned from it. I mean, I was scared and intimidated. And so I definitely wish I had that hour back,
Yeah. Yeah, that was how I felt on Clarissa's show this morning. It was like she's so amazing and doing so much and has like this massive amount of reach. I was just like, man. And then she's got Felicia Romano and she's got Asha Daly.
Asha Daya, yeah, she's another
Daya, and
represent her. Yeah, she's wonderful.
And Tony's wife. And Karen Freeland. Oh my gosh,
another client of mine. Yeah, I love Karen. Yeah, she's.
It was all of us on there today. I mean, it was us ladies one at a time.
Whoop.
Yeah, and to be a part of that, just to be present in that. I had a moment of I don't know that I want to do this. I don't feel like I belong.
You should always feel like you belong. Always feel like you belong. And we're all learning, we're all evolving, and you definitely were a part of that group. So don't think otherwise.
I feel that way now, and that is what enabled me to show up in this interview with so much confidence and being more relaxed. And you taking the time to come on with me a few minutes earlier and start the chat start the conversation, getting it going. It was that moment, and it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't seen the opportunity, because it wasn't something that was advertised. They weren't actively, hey, we're looking for people to come in and help contribute to this event. I kind of elbowed my way in and was like, you guys need me. You need me. My market is exactly where this event needs to show up. And I want to be, I need to be a part of that. And I need to make sure that it's going to be exactly what's going to benefit my people.
Right.
And so my gratitude to you for making sure that being a big handle, being behind the scenes, I see the work that goes into making sure that this event stays the course of that vision.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that story about, it being the one that
got
away, but the one that you wish you could do over.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's important. Those are the ones that stand out. And do you compare all the ones going forward to that one? Well, this one was better than that one.
I think that was probably the worst hour I've ever done. So yeah, I mean, I really can't think of other opportunities that I botched. I mean, I think that I've had other opportunities since, but I don't know that there was anything I could have said or done that would have turned out a different result. So, I met producers and agents and people, and, for whatever reason, it wasn't the right timing, the right person, the right place, or who knows, but that's okay. That's okay. Things are meant to happen in a certain way,
Right. For everything, there is a purpose and there is a method to the madness. Indeed. All right. So, well, let's get into your one bit of advice for people that are considering or have already purchased their ticket to the Journey to Success Summit. What is your one piece of advice for them to make sure that they get the full benefit of being at the event?
Well, I think it's really important that anyone joining this event becomes truly present at the event, and really listens, because these folks are taking their time out from everything else they're doing to share their wisdom and experience. So really listen to them. And so I've been at a lot of these events, and I've met with authors who say, well, I want to publish my memoir, and I want to publish it with a trade publisher and have it be a bestseller. But the truth of the matter is that every industry professional is going to say that even celebrities have trouble selling their memoirs to traditional publishers. So it's pieces of information like that you have to think in terms of publishing as a business. It's a commercial business. And if your story isn't widely known, or isn't something that could become a national headline, or unless you have a community of 100,000 friends, followers, fans as your platform, a memoir will be a very difficult type of book to publish traditionally, to get a traditional publisher. Not that it couldn't happen, it's just really, really difficult. The other piece of advice I would give everyone is present yourself professionally every single time, and be careful of not just how you speak with book publishing people or film people or any of these folks. Be very succinct, be to the point. You have very little time to make an impression with these folks. Go in and out with a very tight question. Go in and out with if you have an opportunity to pitch something, make it really quick and focus on the sales angle of the book. They don't want to know your life story. They want to know how the book is being positioned commercially to work on a bookshelf. Why will it sell? Who will buy it, and why? And so you never, ever want to argue with someone who's a decision maker, whether it's an editor, a publisher, a producer, a director. I have had people who think that tenacity will be the golden ticket to success, And the truth of the matter is that the more you push on an idea that's already been rejected, the less that person ever wants to deal with you again. That's just how it is. Like, it's just, you don't want, no one wants to hurt anyone's feelings. Like, no one likes saying no to someone. We would love to say yes to everyone if we could, but at some point we have to make a decision as to what we take on, whether you're an agent or a publisher or even a producer. And you just have to present yourself really well and learn the tools of how to write a query, learn how to write a book proposal, all of those things if you really want to be traditionally published. And at this event, we're going to show exactly how to do that.
Doesn't Rick do a talk about, for it? Because like I mentioned earlier, the majority of my followers are independently published and would prefer to stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard Rick talk before about still doing your query letter and your book proposal as a business plan.
Right. And it's a great idea to do that anyway. And actually a free tip that I'll give people is that if you are self-publishing, and let's say you're working with a collaborator or an editor or anyone else to produce the book, one of the golden things to do, one of the best things to do is to create in a Word document your Amazon page. Write your title, write your subtitle, write your what we call your banner line. If you go to any Amazon page, you'll see a headline in bold that is like the pitch for the book. And then you'll see 2 to 3 paragraphs, very concise, describing the book to the consumer and showing not only what it is, but why it would be of interest. And so it's almost like a vision statement of your book. And so then what you're doing is, once you have that vision established, that pseudo Amazon page, then you can back out and create a book that has a place in a bookstore, right? You're having it fit. And so I work with every author on getting that right as the first thing, even before doing a table of contents or outline or whatever. Let's start with creating a vision and seeing in your mind's eye, what does this book look and sound like, and what would it be on Amazon? And it actually makes it better. It really does, because then you're visualizing, which is another great technique for anyone to do if you have a dream of accomplishing something.
For me, I recommend that to my clients, but I call it something different. I call it a social media sheet. It's a go-to place.
Right.
A go-to place where you pull all of the information related to that one book, because you're going to have, if you're prolific, I'm at 11. When you have more than one book, trying to manage and control and contain all of the information about that book and match it with your bio and all this, you have it in a centralized document where you can just go and pull that information when you need it. Do it.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. That's some amazing and powerful and way more advice than I was actually anticipating getting from this chat. And we're coming to the end. So I just want to say thank you and I let you know that I very much appreciate you coming in and taking the time with me to provide that information.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with you, Christy. This was great.
I thank you to you, Gary M. Krebs. Find his book, Little Miss Dark, Little Miss of Dark County. There you go. Thank you. And your collaborations, I'll have links to those set up in the replay. But thank you everyone for coming out. Thanks Gary for coming again, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.